Okay, so I decided I wanted to do a video talking a little bit about something that came up in my mailbox today, in my email box, relating to the WWE. Before you run away and think that I'm going to talk about wrestling here, this is actually totally business and political related. So if that bores you, by all means, go ahead and click somewhere else. But I was kind of appalled and kind of, pushed into wanting to take some sort of action after I got an email from the WWE today. I did purchase something from their store quite some time ago, so I still get newsletter emails in my email box, and usually I just delete them. But this one was titled Stand Up For WWE. The only standing up people have been doing lately is against cancer. So I figured, why not find out what this email is about and, see what they're talking about. Now, I heard that something big had gone down on Monday, but I really didn't know a whole lot about it. So I went ahead and read the email. It turns out it's actually for this promotion that they're doing called Stand Up For WWE, where they're trying to get fans. Vince McMahon is spearheading this from what it appears like anyway. Trying to get fans to stand up for the company. I guess the political race in Connecticut, the senatorial race over there, where Vince's wife Linda is currently running for office, has led to the WWE coming under a bunch of public attacks. And as a WWE fan myself, this is nothing new to wrestling fans in general. Wrestling is always under attack. And a lot of times it doesn't get a fair fight in the media because people don't really understand the business and don't really understand where its fans or people who are in the business are actually coming from. So I kind of understand where the WWE is coming from, trying to get out there and get the word out about who they are and whatnot. But I've just absolutely got to object to some stuff that's been pointed out here, and I just really wanted to do that in a public fashion. The email takes you to a subsite that the WWE's created for this campaign, where Vince McMahon gives you I almost called it a promo. He actually just gives you a message when you get to the website saying that the site is intended to set the record straight on WWE's business practices and procedures versus what the media has been saying about the company. And right there, it already starts to feel kind of like a propaganda, kind of a persuasion tool. The WWE reaches millions of people, not just in this country, but around the world. And, WWE can obviously gain something by getting the interest of their fans and putting the fans in a position of feeling attacked or under fire. And I feel that's what they're trying to do with this website, is the WWE is trying to position their fans. And I kind of liken it to, leading a herd of cows or herding a bunch of sheep. They're just trying to get everybody, to drum up support for the company. But of course, it's only going to be WWE fans that actually see this for the most part. So they're drumming up, their own audience and trying to use them as political pawns, is what I see it as. It's not really, hey, stand up for your company, stand up for what you like. It's kind of like, hey, stand up for us because we're being attacked. Hey, just bombard everybody with how much you love the WWE. Don't you love the WWE? You do. You should probably support it. Here's, 10 steps for how to continue supporting it in a public fashion and just be really annoying about it. And so, I kind of feel like it's kind of a pushy, kind of sleazy way of drumming up support, not just for the company, but in a backwards way for Linda McMahon. Obviously, if people support the company in the methods that they're suggesting, then that's going to be a problem for Linda McMahon's opponent in Connecticut, Richard Blumenthal. But, there's some of the points here that I really wanted to get to. I pulled this straight off of the WWE page. I'm actually looking at it right now. There's a list of accusations, as they call it, with sources for who said it or who said what about the company, and then a list of facts that the WWE presents to try to shoot some of those things down. The first thing right off the bat, and this is big for WWE because they've had to deal with this problem for quite some time, and they've done a big role reversal. In the mid-'90s, the company realized that they could get ratings if they started putting on more suggestive material, more sexually suggestive television programming, as well as uber violent programming at times. And then in 2008, the company realized that the best thing to do business-wise was to reverse that and become a PG company so that they can invite Fortune 500 companies to sponsor them. And that's actually worked great for the WWE. They've actually, made more money this way. They're more mainstream in some respects. than they were when they were full of sex and violence. But they immediately attack the fact that people are attacking them for having been at a place where they were sexually suggestive and uber violent with their programming. They claim that they've been PG since June of 2008, and I'm sure that's true, that they've been TV PG since 2008. But look, you know, your company actually did put out a very raunchy, violent product for, you know, a decade or more, and I think a company should have to answer for that. It's pretty obvious that the reason why they did it is for business practices. Nobody in the WWE suddenly decided that they didn't want to possibly offend kids, especially, and you know this because when the company really was at its peak of violence and sexuality on TV, the company defended their position by saying free speech. It's, you know, you have the right to change the channel. They went after the Parents Television Council or whatever, who was always on them, and the Christian Coalition, who was always on them. They went after him and said, we're allowed to put this programming on, and you don't have to let your kids watch if you don't want to. And why don't you sit down and watch TV with your kids? And you know what? They're right about that. But then to turn around, make things PG, and then say, you can't blame us, you can't say anything bad about us for having that type of programming in the past, is wrong. The company clearly had programming that was sexually suggestive and violent, and it was a business decision. So I do think the company should be taken to task for that. You know, in their past, Linda McMahon is running for Congress, and she's, you know, I guess expecting that she shouldn't have to answer to these questions. The statement here is a fact. They have in the past been criticized for violent and sexual material, and I think they should be criticized for that going forward. If you're going to run for office, you have to be able to stand not just for what you stand for now, but you have to be able to represent what you did in the past as well. They also talk about how SmackDown's always been rated TV PG. You know, that's great, but you know, also that has to do with the fact that it's on network television, not cable. And then one of the facts that really got me, they say 87% of WWE fans say that WWE content is appropriate for families. Well, that's kind of like asking Green Bay Packer fans if they think the Packers are great. Of course, WWE fans are going to say the content's appropriate. They're the ones watching it. Now poll, you know, 2 million people who are cross-section of the country and find out how many people actually think the WWE is appropriate for families. Despite the fact that they've turned PG in the last 2 years, there's still millions of people out there who think that the WWE is still a violent, sexually aggressive product that is not right for children. And even in the PG standards that they live up to now, there's still people out there who don't think it's appropriate for children. And, you know, asking WWE fans that question, of course they're going to get a positive response out of that. And, of course, it's going to be 87%. WWE fans think the WWE product is great, and that's fine, but that's not a fair representation of what people actually feel about the product. And then they also throw in the fact that 6 million of their 14 million weekly viewers are women. I don't know what that really proves as far as trying to dispel the idea that it's violent and sexually suggestive. Plenty of women like violence and plenty of women like sex on TV too. So I don't really know how that disproves anything. One of the other facts that they point out here is that they put profits before people. Now this is a big issue in the WWE. The employer, the wrestlers in the company are not technically employees. A lot of people don't realize this, but they're actually independent contractors. They're people technically hired off the street, hired to do a job, and then sent on their way when their time is done with the company. They don't have you know, pension plans or 401ks. They mention in their facts that the WWE provides comprehensive benefits to all full-time employees. That's fantastic for the 600 people that they employ, but they say right here 140 superstars and divas, you know, that's wrestling talent that they currently employ. Those 140 people are not full-time employees, so they're not privy to those benefits. So that's 140 people who are making money for your company. That's the 140 people who actually make up the company and their profits. They're not privy to those benefits, and I think this is a huge thing that does need to be, you know, brought to the forefront. If Linda McMahon is going to be running for office, I think this is fair game. I think her opponent should be allowed to use this against her. The company does not provide benefits to its employees. Therefore, you have employees dropping dead in their 30s and 40s. You have employees getting addicted to steroids and drugs. You have employees that have to continue working well beyond the point where they should be retired. Or, you know, this is the situation that's created when you don't provide benefits for your actual talent. Everybody sitting at a desk in the WWE gets, these benefits, but the people actually making the money for the company don't. And they do like to say that the average, that they like to say on the website here, the average roster talent earns $550,000 a year. Now, I like to believe that that's probably less, but I can't dispute that. And then, they cover all costs of anything associated with anything in-ring related as far as injuries and rehabilitation. That's great and all, but every company offers that when you're on the job. Everybody offers some sort of compensation when you get hurt while you're working. The problem is if an employee gets hurt, if a wrestler, because they're not employees, they're independent contractors. If a wrestler gets hurt away from the ring, or if a wrestler has a problem away from the ring, what happens to them? They could lose their job. They're considered an independent contractor, so the WWE does not have to provide them with any benefits. They could just release them or fire them. Ask that to Andrew Martin, Test. He got released from the company while he was recovering from injury. The same thing has happened to people like Matt Hardy, Rikishi, people who were, I'm sorry, I'm not using Rikishi's real name here. It escapes me at this time. But, those guys had problems and were released by the company. They lost their spot because they were hurt and could not continue to work. And because they're not considered employees, they don't have to offer them the same rights and benefits that employees have. And I do think that's something that should be taken to task, especially since the people that are being considered independent contractors are the people who make up your company's profits and success. So I think this is fair game, and I don't think the WWE should get to say that you should not be able to attack us for this. This is a serious issue that the WWE should have to answer for. And then they also like to say further down here that they offer benefits and rehabilitation to former employees as well. I have an issue with that. Yes, as I've heard and read in the past from numerous sources, they did offer rehabilitation to people like Sean Waltman and Steven Regal, who had drug problems or whatever, and were not technically working for the company, but were then allowed to go through rehabilitation on the company's dime. I think that's great, but for the majority of wrestlers who do get fired, how many of them are going to go back to the WWE and say, hey, you fired me, but I'd like you to provide me with rehabilitation for my drug problem? Is that really realistic? The people that I did mention, Sean Waltman, Steven Regal, those guys were able to go back because they had friends in high places. Sean Waltman is best friends with Triple H. Of course, he's going to be able to say, hey, I need some help with a problem. And, they'll take care of them. But that's not going to be the same for people at the bottom of the totem pole. But, people who do drugs and only appear on the show once a month and then get released. That person just gets sent off into, Never Never Land. And when they keel over and die, the company's response is, well, that person hasn't worked here in a year and a half. That may be true, but, where were you while that person was working for your company? And why didn't that person feel like they could get help? I think the WWE should have to be taken to task for that. They should have to answer to those questions. And it is the truth. They can put the truth in a positive light on their website, but it is the truth that numerous wrestlers have keeled over and are dead well before their time as a result of either something that took place during their time with WWE or the residual effects of their employment while they were with WWE. And I think that's something that should absolutely be taken to task there. Looking through some of the other things, the steroid thing, the WWE has a wellness policy now, so people can't, they really should shut up about the steroid thing. Vince McMahon already beat the government on a steroid charge in the 80s, so, that should be pushed aside. The steroid argument by the media, that's the media obviously not doing their homework and understanding that the WWE has taken a completely different approach on that. Now, unfortunately, that's because wrestlers did wind up dying, and it kind of pushed the WWE to say, we better do something about this before we're in trouble. But the policy is in place, and that's what has to be done. So, I don't agree with the media making the steroids argument as an issue there. But, I'm running kind of short here on time, so I'm going to go ahead and cut myself here. I'm going to come back with some more thoughts on this in the second part of the video.